Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Chhoda, and in this training video I'm going to answer the question, is the White House about to replace the $600 per week federal booster from the PUC program and replace it with a back to work bonus? I'm going to address three things in this training video. The first is the latest news and all the brand new announcements coming out of the White House. I'm actually going to analyze an interview between CNN's Jake Tapper and the White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow. The second, I'm going to talk about the rationale behind the Republicans and behind the White House's ideology about doing away essentially with the $600 per week federal booster. I'm going to talk about my thoughts on it and what I think should happen. And I'm going to most importantly talk about what you should do now, what you should do to start preparing now in case the $600 per week federal booster goes away in the end of July as it is supposed to, and in the event that it's not extended. Now, before I begin, I'd really appreciate it if you can boost the like button, and if you can do me a favor and give me a bonus, which is go ahead and subscribe and also enable the notifications button so you get instant updates from me going forward. Now, as you know, there's a fundamental difference in ideologies between the Democrats and the Republicans. The Democrats want to not only extend the $600 per week federal booster, they also want to significantly expand unemployment benefits. They want more stimulus checks to a much wider pool of people. The Republicans, on the other hand, want to take what's considered a more fiscally responsible approach. They want to see the money work its way through the economy, and what they want to do is to do away with the $600 per week federal booster and instead most likely replace it with a back to work bonus, which has been suggested by a couple of Republican senators. Now, my personal opinion about all this is that there are lives at stake. This isn't about numbers and about statistics. There are actual human beings. You, my subscriber, watching this YouTube video. I know that there are individuals who are suffering out there. I understand that, and I personally feel that there needs to be an approach that blends the Democratic objective and the Republican objective, and that gives help to the people who need it the most, and that helps get individuals back to work as long as they feel safe. Because on the one hand, individuals can't be at home indefinitely on unemployment. On the other hand, we can't keep the economy shut down. So again, in my personal opinion, there needs to be a blended approach. And there is an approach like this that exists out there. I'll talk about that soon. But there needs to be a blended approach that takes the best ideas from both sides, and that essentially is a compromise, and that allows individuals to get the help that they need, because there are individuals that need help, some more than others. And on the other hand, those individuals should be able to get back to work. Individuals should be encouraged, should be incentivized to get back to work as quickly as possible. So in an interview between CNN's Jake Tapper and the White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow, there were some interesting comments. Let's go ahead and take a look at this interview, and I'll break it down for you so you can actually see what's the latest news coming out of the White House right now.
The federal government program for unemployed Americans gives them an extra $600 a week in benefits, but it's slated to run out in 6 weeks. And now obviously the health effects and economic effects are going to last longer than that. Should American families that are receiving these extra $600 checks right now expect that money to stop in August?
Well, unemployment benefits will not stop in August. What may well stop, and this reform is necessary. I mean, almost all businesses, frankly, on both sides of the aisle, or mostly both sides of the aisle, understand that the $600 plus up, that's above the state unemployment benefits that they will continue to receive, is in effect a disincentive. I mean, we're paying people not to work. It's better.
So you can see right here the difference in ideologies between the Democrats and the Republicans right there. And I think Jake Tapper brought up a very valid point. There are individuals, and I know many of my subscribers will agree to this, you are literally depending on the $600 per week federal booster on top of the unemployment benefits that are scheduled to end on the 31st of July. And I think the response from Larry Kudlow was very telling. He said unemployment is not going to go away. I mean, of course, unemployment is not going to go away. Individuals need to have unemployment benefits for the 26 weeks or the 39 weeks because there is a 13-week federal booster to the unemployment itself. But the key here, the core of the issue is the $600 per week federal booster that makes a game-changing difference to the lives of millions of Americans. So as you can see, based on Larry Kudlow's response so far, he said unemployment benefits aren't going to go away, but he is clearly not in favor of the $600 per week federal booster, because they have seen what the data suggests as far as the Republicans, as far as the administration is concerned, is that it's actually creating a disincentive. It's almost like they did it with the intention to get a certain effect, but in a certain sense it's backfiring, because there are individuals who are now making more money on unemployment than they did when they were actually working. And this in particular applies to the low wage earners, the middle income earners, especially individuals in restaurants, in hospitality, in travel, in entertainment, because all of those industries have been completely shut down. Now, I did do other training videos. I did do a training video on unemployment benefits where it essentially pays more to be unemployed, so you definitely want to check that out. I also did another training video where I analyzed an interview with the Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, and he also talked about the disproportionate aspect of the unemployment benefits. In his exact words, he said, we have to fix unemployment benefits. So that's what he had said. But there essentially has been a disproportionate impact towards certain industries: hotels, travel, entertainment, and restaurants. So those are the industries that have been most badly impacted. And so what Larry Kudlow is alluding to here is that individuals should not be disincentivized. In other words, individuals shouldn't feel, hey, I don't have to go back to work. I'm making so much money, so I can continue to stay at home. They want individuals to go back to work. Now, this is obviously a complex subject because an individual has to feel safe in order to go back to work. So there's that as well. But let's hear to the rest of the interview and see what they have to say.
And their salaries would get. And that might have worked for the first couple of months. It'll end in late July. I think that returning to employment, we are in the administration, the president is looking at a reform measure that will still provide some kind of bonus for returning to work, but it will not be as large, and it will create an incentive to work. You know, that goes along with the other incentives we've generated, the tax rebates, and most particularly, Jake, the PPP, the Payroll Protection Program, which I think was a huge success.
Now, this is interesting. You'll see that Larry Kudlow is actually changing the topic and starting to talk about the payroll protection program. And now Jake Tapper actually brings him back, because I've seen this entire interview. Jake Tapper actually brings him back to the concerns about the unemployment benefits, and we'll get into that in a minute or so. But again, you can see that the emphasis from the administration is, hey, let's get individuals back to work and let's essentially give them a bonus to get back to work, as opposed to giving them significant unemployment benefits, which then becomes a disincentive to get back to work. I believe there's a better program out there, and it's called the Job Loser Stimulus Program. I'm actually going to dissect that program because I believe a proposal that blends the democratic proposal as well as the best ideas and the best thought processes of the Republican side of the equation is the way to go. There is no one size fits all in this equation. I can tell you that whatever happens, whatever the government does, there are going to be unhappy people, because again, this is a situation that's affecting millions of people and there's so many emotions involved here, understandably so. Individuals are angry, individuals are frustrated. On the one hand, there are individuals who are making more on unemployment than they ever did before. On the other hand, there are individuals who are still waiting for unemployment, who still haven't gotten their unemployment benefits, and who are extremely angry that they have received almost nothing in stimulus money. So I get it. This is a subject that is fraught with emotion, with some degree of resentment. But let's see the rest of the interview, and there are some interesting nuggets that emerge from the rest of this.
Success, $500 billion of forgivable loans, and that's what the May job report showed. 3 million people, surprised everybody. So we want people to go back to work. Temporary layoffs and furloughs can go back to work. That was in the job figures. Unemployment insurance, the weekly numbers, Jake, falling 10 consecutive weeks. So I think we are on our way. We are reopening, and businesses are coming back, and therefore the job.
Now, Larry Kudlow is referring to the May jobs report. I did do another training video about the May jobs report. It was better than expected. There were 2.5 million job gains. So the Republicans are seeing signs of an economic recovery, which is why they're trying to put the brakes, if you will, on the unemployment benefits and on additional stimulus, because they feel it's not necessary. They feel the economy is essentially turning a corner and individuals need to be able to get back to work. But the predicament here is that individuals need help for much longer than most of us realize. In fact, even if an individual gets their job back, they would still possibly need some unemployment benefits. Now, the very nature of our unemployment system is that when you go back to work, your unemployment benefits stop. But what if there was a proposal? What if there was a proposal that allowed you to continue getting unemployment benefits for a set period of time, even if you got back to your job? And this is the proposal that I'm going to talk about in the next video, because I believe that's the proposal that the White House should take very seriously. But in the meantime, let's get back to this interview and understand the exact rationale for the Republicans in their thought process of doing away with the unemployment benefits in the end of July and then replacing that with a back to work bonus.
Jobs are coming back, and we don't want to interfere with that process.
I understand that there might be some Americans who see the $600 extra a week as a disincentive, but I have a tough time really believing that people don't want to go back to work. They would rather stay at home because I just think the American people, maybe that's some, but for a majority of the American people, I think they want to go back to work, but a lot of them, those jobs aren't coming back.
Well, look, I think that's a fair point. I personally agree with you. I think people want to go back to work, and I think they welcome the reopening of the economy, and I think they're anxious to get out and about. However, at the margin, incentives do matter. And so we've heard from business after business, industry after industry, and there's already some evidence that this effect is taking place. Now, mind you, let me repeat, we are not going to remove unemployment benefits. That will still continue. And there will be some return to work benefit. It won't be quite as substantial. This is a turning point in the economy. Besides the great jobs numbers, you've had a lot of positive green shoot indicators, Jake, and we don't want to interrupt that. Besides the job figures, you're going to get big retail sales numbers reported next week on Tuesday. Already department and merchandise sales week to week are above year-ago levels. You've got...
So again, you can see the emphasis here on the economic recovery. You can see that the administration wants to leverage the economic recovery to essentially put an end to unemployment benefits so individuals get back to work. And if you paid close attention to what Larry Kudlow said, and you may want to go back a minute in this video and listen to his exact words, he said the problem is at the margin. The problem is with the incentive at the margin.
At the margin, incentives do matter.
What he's trying to say is that the White House has heard from a lot of businesses, from a lot of other economic advisors, that this $600 per week federal booster, which made sense in the beginning. In fact, that's what he said at the start of the interview. It made sense in the first couple of months. This $600 per week federal booster is actually now creating a disincentive so that individuals are now saying, no, I don't want to go back to work, to employers, when in fact they should be going back to work. Now, should individuals go back to work when they are offered the opportunity and when it is safe to go back to work? Absolutely. I agree with that, and I'm sure you do as well, because as Jake Tapper said, most individuals want to get back to work.
For a majority of the American people, I think they want to go back to work.
But the gray area arises with individuals who don't feel safe or who can't go back to work because it's not yet safe, because perhaps there's a resurgence of the pandemic in that state, or social distancing guidelines still exist, the state lockdown still exists. That's the gray area, though. That's the real challenge that is hard, that simply is not easy to address. So that is the predicament here. By the way, the look on Jake Tapper's face as he's talking to Larry Kudlow is pretty funny. He's extremely skeptical, as you can see, with what Larry Kudlow is saying. So I just think that body language speaks volumes. So I do think that that's pretty interesting. Let's see the rest of this interview.
Year-ago levels. You've got an Apple Mobility Index that's practically pre-pandemic, showing that people are traveling. You've got new business applications are skyrocketing. And by the way, small businesses are now about 80% reopening. So this is all positive news coming off the pandemic. We are in the recovery stage.
Right. I mean, there's still 40 million Americans unemployed, and we are in a recession. You brought up the PPP.
So as you can see, that this is a complex subject, and on the one hand, there are individuals who are collecting more money on unemployment than they ever did. On the other hand, there are individuals who desperately need the money, who still haven't gotten their unemployment benefits, or who've got reduced unemployment benefits, or who are still waiting to hear back from the state, or whose unemployment benefits just stopped, or the $600 per week federal booster just stopped. There are a lot of individuals who are literally depending on the $600 per week federal booster. It literally is a matter of life and death for individuals. And if this goes away, on the 31st of July, which it is scheduled to go away at the point I'm recording this video. My personal opinion is, for those of us who need it the most, for those of us who lost our job through no fault of our own, for those of us who still have no chance of getting our job back, the unemployment benefits should be extended by all means. But on the other hand, individuals who have the opportunity to get back to work, for whom it is safe to go back to work, and individuals where the social distancing guidelines have been relaxed, the state lockdowns have been released, those are the individuals who should get back to work. And the way our system exists right now, you can collect unemployment, but the moment you get your job, you are no longer collecting unemployment. In a normal world, this absolutely makes sense, because unemployment benefits were really small and were just designed to help an individual just get by while they look for another job. But in this unusual upside down world, you have high unemployment benefits, and then an individual knows that, hey, if I go back to my job, I lose my unemployment benefits, and now if I go back to my job, I'm actually going to make less money than I did on unemployment, which now creates a disincentive for me, and I don't want to go back to work. This is the cause of the problem that the Republicans are trying to address, and that's why they want to do away with the $600 per week federal booster at the end of July. Now, the ideal solution here is something that helps out people who need it the most, and at the same time encourages individuals to get back to work, because at the end of the day, when all of us get back to work in a safe manner, in a productive manner, life can go back to the way it was, and that's eventually where we'll be. But the question is, what's the most efficient way to get there? I hope you learned something new from this training video. If you did learn something new, just give me a gentle boost by clicking that like button. Just boost that like button. I would really appreciate that. And also, speaking of a back to work bonus, one bonus for me would be if you click that subscribe button and enable notifications so you get future updates from me instantly. Thank you so much for watching. I release videos at 2 p.m. East Coast time most days of the week. I'm also going to release a new training video on the Job Losers Stimulus Program, which is a phenomenal new proposal that is likely to blend the best of the Democratic and the Republican ideals into one program that could perhaps make the most amount of sense. And you have a role in it, because if you agree with it, you can talk to your local congressman, and hopefully you can help us generate some traction into a solution that makes sense for all of us. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, please boost the like button. Please give me a bonus by clicking that subscribe button and by enabling notifications. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next training video. Thanks.